To all participants, thank you for standing by. The conference is ready to begin. La conférence est prête à débuter. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Fireside Chat with the OCI conference call. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Bienvenue à la conférence Appel amical avec le DEC. I'll now turn the meeting over to Mrs. Lori Ebbison. Je cède la parole à Madame Lori Ebbison. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Great. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the National Executive Committee of Citizen Advisory Committee, I'm really pleased to be able to launch this first ever fireside chat with the new Correctional Investigator of Canada. For those of you who aren't familiar, this is the second fireside chat we've held. It's taken from the page of a playbook by President Roosevelt, who conducted fireside chats via radio to reach as many Americans as possible during the 30s and 40s. So this is an interesting opportunity for CAC to connect with influential leaders in corrections and to help us advise and be more informed in order to perform our role. So, with that, as a very brief introduction, I'm going to introduce our special guest speaker today. So Dr.
Oui, bonjour. Est-ce que la conférence va être en français aussi?
Excusez-moi, excuse me, Laurie. We have difficulty to get to having a contact access with our interpreters. So all the lines, all the conference will be in English only.
Okay. So.
Je suis désolée pour la personne du Québec. On a des difficultés à obtenir les interprètes en ligne. Alors, il faut que la conférence soit en anglais seulement.
Bon, est-ce que la conférence va avoir lieu à une autre date pour le français?
Non.
Oh, non.
Les membres qui sont ici sont très déçus.
Well, I think as an opportunity, obviously our guest speaker is bilingual, so we'll try to do some back and forth in both official languages today. We do apologize because as the National Executive, we do aim to do things in both languages simultaneously, so our sincere apologies. We'll do the best that we can today, and then we'll consider other options to make sure that everyone's privy to today's conversation.
Alors, pour les gens du Québec, Mme Ebbison dit que M. Zinger peut parler français aussi. Il peut y avoir des interactions dans les deux langues officielles et on s'excuse de ce contretemps. Et on va faire tout ce qu'on peut pour essayer de vous fournir l'information dans les deux langues.
So let me introduce our speaker today. Dr. Ivan Zinger received his degree in common law from the University of Ottawa in 1992, completed his articles of clerkship at the Federal Court of Canada. He also obtained a PhD at Carleton University in psychology of criminal conduct and is remaining as an adjunct professor with the law department at Carleton. So he has a long-standing affiliation with the Public Service of Canada, beginning roles there in 1996, and has held a variety of senior managerial policy and research positions in public safety-related federal departments and agencies. So he joined the Office of the Correctional Investigator in 2004, and just recently assumed the position of the Correctional Investigator of Canada in January 1st, 2000. What a unique opportunity for us to learn a little bit more about his first 3 months on the job and where he anticipates heading in the office. Now, I must say that CAC has always had a tremendous, strong rapport and positive rapport with the Correctional Investigator of Canada. Many of you would have had some affiliation with Howard State, who did join us in regional telecom, engaged with the National Executive Committee, and also attended a meeting of the CAC Subcommittee on Women Offenders. So this, too, is an opportunity for us to learn a little bit more about Dr. Zinger's intentions in this position and how CAC can gain from his expertise. I'll turn it over to him at the end of his comments. We will open it up for questions, and we'll go region by region. So I'll come back on after he's said a few remarks to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Bonjour tout le monde. Désolé d'apprendre qu'il y a des problèmes de coordination avec les services de traduction. Comme vous voyez, je parle bien français, alors si vous avez des questions, soit en français, je collaborerai quelques reprises en français, ça me fera un grand plaisir pour les auditeurs Québec. So what I was suggesting that maybe I would do, because I understand that there may be some new members of CACs, just quickly go over the mandate of my office. Then I would like to just say a few things about sort of the value and contribution of CACs and how this office perceives its role and where it value added to the issues of openness, transparencies, and accountability. Then I'll look at some of the priority in the last 3 months for me, because I've only been in my position for 3 months. And then just give you a sense of what priorities for our office. Alors encore une fois, merci de m'avoir invité. Je vais juste faire un survol un petit peu rapide de notre rôle et mandat et après parler un petit peu du rôle des comités aviseurs et des priorités So let me first start giving you just a very brief story of our office. We were created back in 1973, and this was done in response deadly riots that took place in Kingston Penitentiary back in 1971. After the riots took place, there was a commission of inquiry, and the commission basically, sort of after reviewing all the evidence, sort of linked the beginning of the riots to, I guess, the inability of the penitentiary service, as it's been known, to its lack of ability onto legitimate grievances from prisoners. In response to that, we were established as an informal avenue of redress that would be external to the penitentiary service at that time. And we've been in existence ever since, and it's only in 1992 that we were entrenched in legislation under Part 3 of the Corrections and Conditional Release Act. En 1992, la nouvelle loi a passé. Évidemment, la partie 1 touche pour les obligations au niveau du service correctionnel, la partie 2 pour la commission de libération, et nous, on est dans la partie 3. On est tous sous la même loi. We're truly a prison ombudsman office. We have tremendous legal authority pursuant to the CCRA. You can enter any penitentiary at any time, investigate, we can gather and request documents, we can interview inmates, always sort of behind closed doors, in full confidentiality. We can ask questions to staff. We even have the authority, the correctional staff, or even hold public hearings, powers that we have not used or seen necessary to use thus far. We report back to Parliament via an annual report. We investigate complaints. If the complaints have merit, then our authority is limited to making recommendations, just like a true ombudsman office. Alors encore une fois, on a énormément de pouvoir au niveau de nos autorités juridiques, d'accéder aux pénitenciers, de demander des documents, d'interviewer les intervenants. Mais en bout de ligne, on ne fait que des recommandations qui ne nuisent pas au service, mais dont le service, évidemment, a une obligation statutaire de nous répondre. Et on a la capacité, justement, de se rapporter au Parlement via un rapport annuel ou des rapports spéciaux. Now let me just chat a little bit about CAC. I particularly find CAC invaluable, and they're invaluable because they are part of sort of a network of external eyes into penitentiaries. I guess it flows from the paragraph 4, one of the principles under the that says that guides the service in achieving its purpose, and it stipulates that the service facilitates the involvement of members of the public in matters relating to the operation of the service. And the CSEs are, as you know, entrenched in regulations, so it is a statutory requirement, and it, again, adds to a complement of bodies to look and keep the Correctional Service of Canada open, transparent, and accountable in how it delivers its mandate. It plays, you are impartial observers, you are independent monitors, you have, because of your presence in penitentiaries or even in parole offices, you can get the pulse of those that you are assigned to. You get a good sense of the culture, the mood, the issue. You're provided under the regulations with reasonable access, and I think you have a really important role if there's a crisis situation, exceptional searches, but also you can observe disciplinary court, you can sit on segregation reviews, you can monitor parole hearings, you can assist in inmate grievances, all sorts of things in terms of addressing the issues and concerns of prisoners or of the community where that institution is placed. So for me, it's part of a larger network, and all of us sort of complement each other, whether it's my office and its role as an ombudsman office, but it's also, the offenders have, recourse in terms of judicial review through litigation, the access that judges, MPs, and senators can have access to penitentiaries. There's public scrutiny with the media. NGOs are often omnipresent in the lives of offenders in some institution. There's independent adjudication with respect to disciplinary segregation and likely with respect to administrative segregation in the not-so-distant future. There are obviously sets of volunteers, and then there's a big network of quasi-judicial bodies such as the Human Rights Commission, the Information Commissioner, the Privacy Commissioner, or Fish and Languages. All these plays a role to sort of break the wall of penitentiaries and ensure that there's external eyes in how prisons are run. Au niveau de mes priorités, depuis que j'ai accédé au rôle d'enquêteur correctionnel, j'ai évidemment la première priorité, c'était évidemment de rencontrer le ministre de la sécurité publique et le commissaire. Et j'ai aussi décidé au début de certainement visiter chaque région à travers le pays et de visiter le plus de pénitenciers possible pour avoir une meilleure compréhension des enjeux. I have to say that my predecessor, Howard Sapers, was always on travel status, and somebody had to be left behind and actually run the office. So I did not, in recent years, did not get the too many opportunities to go around the country and visit penitentiaries. So this was really interesting. I've met with 3 RDCs in their regions, and will also finish my rounds across the country this month. Actually, for the month of April, I have a couple more visits scheduled. And I think it's always interesting to visit penitentiaries. I've also had the opportunity to meet with CAC members during those visits, and they definitely bring an added perspective and a very informed perspective on some of the priorities and challenges confronted by institutions. So let me just maybe give you a sense of some of the issues that we are currently working on or in the middle of working on, and hopefully, and please ask lots of questions about some of those issues. We actually submitted to the Minister an important report on a death in custody, and I'm expecting this to be brought forward and made public in this spring. So this was a particular disturbing case that took place in Dorchester Penitentiary, the death of Matthew Hines. So we completed our report there, and we will make this one public with lots of recommendations. So this has been obviously for us an important case, a case that is certainly as problematic in our view as cases such as the case of Ashley Smith, which is quite well known. We also are doing some currently doing 2 systemic investigations, one on secure units or maximum units for women in women institutions. So we interviewed about 2/3 of all the women in those secure institutions, so we have an excellent sample, and we will be passing comments on the management of the secure units, likely in our upcoming annual report, which is due this year. We are also in the midst, we finished interviewing our sample. We're doing a systemic investigation on younger offenders, and we define younger offenders as the age group 18 to 21. We've interviewed about over 80 individuals. Actually 90, it was actually around 90. And this one will probably make a standalone report on that investigation, and will be released probably in fall of this year. I can tell you that we have made recommendation on younger offenders before. In our 2010 annual report, stating that the service did not have special policy or practices or services designed to address their unique needs. The service also received a dozen recommendations in the Ashley Smith inquest. The jury made specifically recommendation to better respond to that age group. I can tell you that we also, when we did our interviews, we are also concerns about that. I guess the interview led to the realization that younger offenders from indigenous background have very unique sets of circumstances. So we will likely have a chapter dedicated to that. On va aussi faire du travail sur les délinquants plus âgés. On va probablement commencer ce sera notre prochaine enquête systémique. Je crois que c'est une population, encore une fois, le service a accepté une recommandation de développer une stratégie nationale sur les personnes plus âgées dans nos pénitenciers. Ça soulève énormément de préoccupations et je pense que ça va être la prochaine enquête systémique que notre bureau va regarder plus attentivement. Et ça sera le même genre de méthodologie où est-ce qu'on va aller dans toutes les régions et interviewer des délinquants et aussi s'assurer qu'on a aussi des entrevues avec du personnel du service correctionnel. Et on pourrait certainement parler d'entendre aussi des témoignages de membres du comité adviseur si vous êtes prêts à collaborer et à participer à une enquête. We've also raised with the Commissioner concerns with respect to accessing, responding to requests to information on videos of use of force. We consider that the service is not being fully compliant with respect to requests that are made. We think that there would be, in the long term, a great deal of benefit to release the videos to requesters. So right now, the service, when they receive, for example, an access request, and there's documentation about a particular use of force, they will have no problem releasing the documents. But when it comes to videos, there seem to be some hurdles. So we'll pursue that issue. Ultimately, I think if accessing videos was more common, I think it may actually affect changes in the intervention of correctional staff if they know that the videos are becoming part of the accessible. We're also going to do a bit more work on and this is coming, the optional protocol on the Convention Against Torture. For some of you may be aware of this, the government has decided to finally, after well over a decade that this international instrument been available for signature and ratification, to move forward on this. The bottom line is this will change a little bit. It will provide, I guess, additional oversight because the instrument calls for domestic mechanism to conduct inspection of all places of detention. So that includes, of course, penitentiaries, prisons, provincial prisons, lockup, immigration centers, all sorts of even secure psychiatric hospital will need to have sort of an independent domestic body that will conduct regular inspection of all those places. So this is coming. This is something that Canada has agreed to move forward. So whether the government decide to extend the mandate of existing agencies like ourselves or create a new agency, that is still unclear. But this for sure will come, so this is an interesting issue. Then The only thing that I can sort of let you know, after I talked to Don Head, I've pitched to him that we needed to perhaps have a more formalized set of meetings with him, and he agreed to have quarterly meetings with my office with a formal agenda to go through some issues, whether they're individual case systemic issues or issues about sort of that we need to have a dialogue and exchange on some of the concerns that we have and what the potential solution recommendation from our office would be. So my first meeting, quarterly meeting with the Commissioner is scheduled next week, and sort of just to let you know the kind of agenda items that we will be covering. Now that we know that the new budget provided money for offenders as well as mental health, sort of $65 million over 5 years for the former and about $57 million on mental health 5 years. Our office still want to know a little bit more what are the plans for that money. Also are asking the Commissioner to update us on the policy dealing with transgender offenders, because the government made it clear that they want to now allow for some changes in that policy, so we want to know in terms of consultation and what is being planned in this time frame. He will be updating the Commissioner on some of our early findings on our younger offender systemic as well as our systemic investigation on women in secure custody. The last two, which are items on our agenda, which are more sort of having dialogue and trying to exchange on various point of views. The one thing that we want to raise with the Commissioner is about grievances at the national the last level, in HQ grievances. There seem to be ongoing delays again. We continue to be quite critical of the complaint and grievance system of the service, so we want to have an exchange on that. We are aware that the service is going to conduct an audit on this issue. We've actually met with the service's audit team, but this is a long-standing issue that always regularly subject to reviews or reports, and the issue remains problematic. And this is 2 decades that this office has invested in terms of providing recommendation reforms in that area. And the final thing is that we want to talk a little bit about administrative segregation. The government made it clear that they are intending to move forward with some legislative changes, and I think this is coming, but it's all going to be, the devil is going to be in the details on this one. So I think it will be important for Don to get where we're at in terms of the office's perspective on this issue. So I'm
well, that's fabulous. So that gives us a wonderful overview of the office, its mandate. Glad to hear about the appreciation for CAC. That never hurts our egos, that's for sure. But also an appreciation for the depth and breadth of issues, and also the investigative potential that you have and the research capabilities and everything else that goes along with that. So thank you for that and those comments. We now want to open it up for questions. We're going to start with the Atlantic region, and if you have a question, please identify yourself by name, indicate your CAC, and then provide your comment or question. And we'll move from region to region to make sure that everyone has an opportunity, and if there's time remaining, we'll open it up to the floor. So Atlantic Region, if you would kick us off, please, with comments or questions.
Hi, this is Donna Gardner. I'm Chair of Newfoundland CAC. Just curious if you're going to be heading our way anytime soon.
Yes, I will meet with Scott Harris in the coming few weeks. I'm not exactly sure which. I think it's around. It's sometime in April. I would have to look at my calendar. I've lost track of all my commitments. But I will go visit Scott in Moncton as well. Drive up to Spring Hill. So that's already scheduled. I was in Sydney, Nova Scotia earlier this year, but this was to meet with the family of Matthew Hines as part of our investigation into death. But I do expect to return shortly.
So no planned visit for Newfoundland?
For Newfoundland, not immediate plans. But you're raising an important question. An important issue here is that we are, as an office, quite focused on institutional corrections, and the reason is that the bulk of our complaints come from institutions. We very rarely have complaints coming from offender in the community, and typically when they do happen, the calls we get are from offender who has just been suspended, and they're calling actually from an institution, not from the community. I'm very well aware that there are some significant human rights concerns that can come from community corrections. Many years ago, I was part of a working group on human rights, and we looked at community corrections, and we know that the potential for sort of a human rights violation is also important in the community, just because parole officer have an incredible ability to suspend, and the end results may be an immediate loss of liberty. So I will make an effort. I want to more halfway houses. I visited one in Montreal, Maison Crossroad, que j'ai visité il y a à peu près un mois et demi, qui est une maison de transition qui est dédiée au service pour des personnes, des délinquants plus âgés. So I intend to do more of those, and I should probably also visit some parole offices as well.
Thank you.
Anything else from Atlantic? All right, let's jump to the other side of the country, Pacific region. Do you have questions or comments?
Good afternoon, Dr. Singer. It's Chelsea Morey. I'm the CAC Regional Representative for Pacific. And I have a quick question for you. In 2014 and 15, your annual report from the office again singled out the problem of aging prisoner population. Again, in 2016, your office provided significant stats for the same issue, and we've seen our Minister of Finance provide funding for other areas. Do you see a way that CAC could partner further or leverage the ability to see funding put towards the aging offender population concerns throughout the nation?
Good question. I think the part of the challenge for us is that we see too many cases where we have palliative care offender who end up dying in custody. We see very, very few inmate being granted compassionate release. I think it's about 1 per year the last 5 years. And we think a lot more should be done to transfer individual later in life to the community, so they can die in dignity in the community, and especially when there's absolutely no risk or manageable risk to release them in the community. So this is, for me, it's partly new money. Obviously, it would be helpful, but I think it's also a question of reallocation. It does cost the service a lot of money to have somebody died in custody. Community correction is always cheaper, less expensive alternative to institutional corrections. We have some sad cases were in the community and became sick or with Alzheimer or other issues, were returned back to the institution and eventually died in custody. So I think there's some room here for the service to community. I think this is especially more important now with new laws dealing with assisted dying. It would be very sad that the only way an offender can actually die in the community is a few days before when choose that avenue. I think that decision should be made in the community. So if a person is released in the community, for example, palliative or require end-of-life services, and make the decision dying in the community, I think that would be a much more ethical and more consistent with human rights framework. So I'm not convinced that it's all about new money. It has to be also, allocating the service, reallocating more money to community corrections, and buying beds. For example, the Maison Crossroad that I visited in Montreal, always struggling for finance. They would be more than happy to provide enhanced services, but even just they have to scramble to buy hospital beds. They don't have the money to provide 24-hour care, but if they were provided with funding, they would more than happy to do it. And I think that would be a much more compassionate correctional service if they would provide those opportunities.
Anything else from Pacific? Let's head to Quebec.
Oui, bonjour. Moi, je suis Louise Baudette. Bonjour, docteur. Moi, j'aimerais que vous me répétiez votre nom, parce que je n'ai pas très bien compris tout à l'heure, premièrement.
C'est Yvan Zinger. Je suis né à Montréal, à Outremont, et j'ai grandi à Outremont. Alors, je connais bien Montréal.
OK. Alors, c'est Yvan qui?
Zinger. Z-I-N-G-E-R.
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 Ah, OK. Bon, OK, je vous remercie de me le répéter, parce que tantôt en anglais, j'avais vraiment pas bien compris. Alors, moi, je suis de Drummondville. Alors, est-ce que vous croyez qu'à part d'avoir été visiter le Crossroad pour les délinquants âgés, pensez-vous de venir visiter un des pénitenciers de la région du Québec?
Oui, je suis déjà allé visiter quelques pénitenciers au Québec et je compte y aller de nouveau. Alors, j'ai visité Joliette,
Établissement pour femmes.
Le centre Passion.
Pardon?
le Centre fédéral de formation.
OK, oui, le CFF, oui, OK.
Et j'ai rencontré aussi le maire de la région de Québec.
OK, vous avez peut-être rencontré M. Pisson, Jean-François Pisson? Non?
Non, Alain Tousignan.
Non, Alain Tousignan.
Alain Tousignan, OK, le sous-commissaire.
Oui, le sous-commissaire, voilà.
Le sous-commissaire Alain Tousignan,
oui.
OK.
Et je compte, encore une fois, j'ai fait j'ai fait énormément de voyages, mais je compte continuer à chaque fois que je suis dans une région, de visiter soit des pénitenciers ou des maisons de transition, et rencontrer le plus d'intervenants possible.
OK. Moi, à Drummondville, j'ai rencontré le comité de détenus et puis il y a beaucoup de plaintes. Ils se plaignent beaucoup en ce qui concerne l'indexation du salaire. Hein?
Oui.
Vous devez en entendre parler pas mal.
Oui, et c'est quelque chose que nous avons soulevé dans notre dernier rapport annuel. Je vous avoue que dans le passé, avec le gouvernement Harper, on n'avait pas trop poussé parce qu'on avait peur que si on poussait sur cette question-là, qu'ils allaient complètement retirer la paye des détenus au complet.
Oui.
Alors, stratégiquement, on n'a pas poussé, mais maintenant, on a remis ça sur notre liste de priorités. On a inclus ça dans notre dernier rapport annuel et le service s'est engagé de faire une revue de toute la question de la paye dans la prochaine année fiscale. Alors, on attend maintenant la réponse du service au niveau de s'ils vont essayer je sais qu'il y a certains directeurs qui essayent d'alléger un petit peu le fardeau fiscal de certains détenus. Alors j'espère, j'espère bien que ça va être quelque chose qui va être réformé dans la prochaine année ou deux.
Oui, ben c'est ça, parce que depuis 1981, il n'y a rien qui a été fait vraiment, d'augmentation. En plus, Corcan, le bonus à Corcan, il est tout enlevé aussi. Alors, c'est difficile pour nous à Drummondville d'avoir des détenus qui veulent travailler à Corcan à cause qu'ils n'ont plus de bonus, là. En tout cas, on n'a pas parlé quelque chose de trop personnel non plus, là. Mais je l'ai tout lu, votre rapport 2015-2016, et puis j'ai trouvé ça très intéressant, là, les recommandations que vous faites aussi, là. Oui, allô?
Oui, merci. Et comme je vous dis, c'est certainement un des sujets qui est, au niveau des délinquants et délinquantes, c'est probablement le sujet numéro 1 qui est souvent... après ça, serait je vous dirais en ce moment, c'est la nourriture, là, ça serait numéro 2.
Oui, bien, le menu national. Oui, le menu national, ils m'en ont parlé pas mal aussi. Et le catalogue également.
Oui, le catalogue. Alors, c'est toutes des choses...
Le catalogue.
Oui. Et toutes ces choses-là, on les a documentées dans nos rapports annuels et on a reçu plusieurs engagements du service, engagements positifs. Mais le problème avec les engagements du service, c'est qu'ils sont souvent... on attend une réponse dans la prochaine année ou dans l'année subséquente. Alors, on est un petit peu en attente en ce moment de voir comment ces bons engagements, si ça va être traduit en changement et en réforme.
Ben, c'est ça. C'est pas ça. Moi, finalement, c'est le gouvernement qui décide. Hein? Bon, ben, je vous remercie infiniment. Je ne prendrai pas plus de votre temps. Il y a d'autres personnes qui veulent parler. Alors, merci, M. Saint-Gé.
Oui, merci beaucoup.
Anthony Gagnon, Cowansville, juste une question rapide parce que les enjeux sont les mêmes un peu partout, donc je ne reviendrai pas sur ce que Mme a mentionné. Mais est-ce qu'il est de votre intention, lors de vos visites, de spécifiquement rencontrer des comités de citoyens ou du moins le comité régional des citoyens?
La réponse est oui. Alors, je pense que je dois le faire de façon un petit peu plus systématique. Après avoir parlé à Laurie, on a formalisé maintenant qu'à chaque fois que nos nos enquêteurs vont à l'établissement, que les comités locaux vont être avertis et auront l'opportunité de rencontrer nos enquêteurs. Et je vais essayer de faire la même chose quand je visite des établissements ou la région, de m'assurer que les comités locaux, le comité régional est informé de ma visite. S'il y a une possibilité d'échange et de rencontre, ça sera formidable.
Merci.
One more from Quebec before we go to Prairie.
Yes, Lori, I would like to have a word. It's going to be a quick word because I have to go back to work. So, this is Nicole Garot speaking from. Bonjour, Monsieur Venger. Je suis Nicole Garot. Je suis la présidente du CRD pour le Québec. J'ai deux choses sur lesquelles j'aimerais valider avec vous. Dans un premier temps, je vous remercie pour le travail que vous faites. C'est très apprécié. J'aimerais savoir si dans vos visites, je m'excuse, je suis au boulot, alors je n'ai pas pu arriver pour 4h moins 5. Est-ce que vous avez noté, observé ou relevé des formes et des évidences de taxage à l'intérieur de nos établissements?
Excusez-moi, je n'ai pas tout à fait compris. Est-ce que vous pouvez répéter votre question? Si j'ai remarqué quoi?
Si vous avez eu l'occasion de prendre connaissance des procédures de taxage entre détenus, vous savez ce dont je parle, le taxage?
Oui, je comprends.
L'intimidation. Écoutez, j'entends les troubles de santé mentale. Je suis très heureuse de voir que vous apportez une attention particulière aussi au niveau des personnes, des délinquants âgés. Ce sont les personnes les plus vulnérables en matière de taxage.
Oui.
Et je suis très préoccupée par ça, moi. Est-ce que vous avez eu l'occasion de vérifier, valider, confirmer ou infirmer ça?
On n'a jamais fait d'enquête systémique sur toutes ces questions de taxage. C'est évident que on est au courant que ça se passe. On sait par exemple que à cause justement que le niveau de paye est insuffisant, à cause que des fois même la nourriture souvent peut même devenir une commodité dans les pénitenciers. On sait que il y a des populations qui sont plus vulnérables que d'autres et qui sont assujetties au taxage. On a, au niveau des plaintes, on a souvent à cause qu'il y a une certaine peur de faire des plaintes individuelles sur ces questions-là. C'est quelque chose que peut-être, oui, on devrait examiner peut-être plus certainement de façon plus approfondie. On va en parler certainement avec notre enquête systémique sur les délinquants plus jeunes, des 18 à 21 ans, parce qu'il y a certainement des questions de sécurité personnelle qui ont été soulevées à notre attention. On le fera aussi avec les délinquants plus vieux, mais c'est toujours très difficile d'enquêter sur ces questions-là parce que justement il y a des barrières au niveau de faire les plaintes sur ces questions-là.
C'est très préoccupant et je vous admets que ça me préoccupe. Dans l'autre, je ne sais pas si vous avez du pouvoir là-dessus. J'ai entendu vos commentaires à l'effet que les CCC étaient importants à l'intérieur du cadre des services correctionnels et au niveau de nos mandats. Sont d'observer, de faire des recommandations et de faire la liaison. Nous éprouvons à la grandeur du Canada une difficulté en matière de budget. Je dirais que c'est un cancer, sinon une gangrène qui guette presque la disparition de l'existence des CCC. Nous sommes des bénévoles, nous prenons de notre temps, vous le savez. il semble que le fait d'avoir des budgets qui nous sont attribués, ne serait-ce que pour rencontrer nos objectifs de mandat et rencontrer les frais de déplacement, ça devient un calvaire de régler ça. Je ne sais pas si vous avez le pouvoir de faire des recommandations au niveau du commissaire là-dessus.
C'est quelque chose qu'on est bien au courant. Je crois que, justement, à cause que le mandat est un mandat qui est statutaire, qui est dans la loi, je crois qu'à cause que c'est dans la loi, il doit y avoir une obligation de la part du service de faciliter le travail des comités. Et faciliter, moi, quand on a des bénévoles, ça peut-être ça a aussi une valeur monétaire. I would say, and I want to make sure that everybody gets this, I would say that there might be an opportunity when the CCRA is open up, when a bill will be presented before Parliament, for CACs to appear before the various standing committee on probably on public safety, to actually make representation before parliamentarians to see whether the role of CAC could be strengthened. For example, right now it's in regulation. I could, if I was in your place, I would try to see whether, if there was a bill dealing with corrections, see whether it could not be entrenched into the CCRA. And that would actually provide more leverage for you to sort of say, okay, if we're entrenched in legislation, there has to have an obligation from the service to facilitate the work, and that includes facilitating the work like today, but also in terms of funding for transportation or anything that could that would be reasonable to ensure that they can that each of you can be better positioned to do the work that you require. Alors c'est une question qui est difficile. Je crois que les comités devraient, si il y a des amendements à la loi sur les services correctionnels, faire des représentations au niveau des comités parlementaires pour voir si le rôle ne devrait pas être peut-être ajusté et devenir enchâssé dans la loi au lieu du règlement. Alors je crois que ce serait une bonne chose d'explorer ce genre d'avenue-là. Et parce que si vous êtes sous la loi, d'après moi, il doit y avoir une obligation au niveau des services correctionnels de faciliter votre travail. Et ça doit avoir aussi un élément financier attaché à ça.
Oui, mais nous sommes dans la loi.
I'm aware of our time, so I think we'll switch over to the prairies. Thank you, Nicole. It sounds like you need to get back to work as well. So prairies, over to you.
Hi, this is Myra D'Souza from Chair of the Calgary Parole Office. I would like to know, since you've taken office, I'm sure you've had lots of challenges, inherited a lot of challenges from the previous Howard Sapers. Want to know, how are you going to do things differently in terms of getting things done? I know he had challenges as well. How is your office going to do things and take the office in a different direction?
I think it's it's a very good question. I'll tell you that it's been a daunting issue for me to come after Howard, because Howard had such a great reputation, made such a big contribution. It's always difficult to follow somebody who and fill the big shoes of somebody like Howard. In many ways, I would say that Howard's success was the success also of the offices that was supporting him behind, and that office is still there, and I was certainly part of that that office because I've been with Howard for over 11 years. So in many ways, I intend to continue the good work that Howard has done, but I also think that the landscape has changed. Most of Howard's mandate was during the Harper years, where it was very difficult to get our recommendation accepted and move forward. Now the landscape has changed. The last two annual reports, we received certainly a much better response and constructive response from Correctional Services Canada than in the past under the Conservative government. So we now, for example, have to track commitments to our annual report recommendation, which in the past we didn't do because most of it was either not necessary because the response were often ignored, or at least not sure how to say it politely, but certainly the response to our recommendation wasn't responsive. So now we actually have very strong commitments from the Prime Minister in his mandate letter with respect to administrative segregation, mental health, Indigenous overrepresentation issues, and recommendation around Ashley Smith. We never had that before, and this has translated in much better response to our annual reports and other reports that we've done for the past year and a half. So the landscape has changed, so I think we also have to work more closely with the service, given that there's more openness to look at our recommendation and move forward. And so I think that's part of the challenge for me is to landscape has changed, so we have to adapt to that landscape. Howard was an exceptionally good communicator, as you know. He was very, very good with the media. I've done a bit of media. It's been quite positive so far. I probably won't do as much as he will. He did. But we'll continue in the background to push for the same issues that we've been pushing for the past, over the past decade.
We better turn to Ontario and allow someone from Ontario to have a question because we are nearing the end of our time.
Yeah, hi, it's Grant Mitchell. Yeah, is it okay for me to go ahead?
Go ahead.
Okay. Howard, I've met I've met you before, but I'm wondering, one thing that comes up periodically from various CACs is when you have the briefing with the warden after a visitation at any institution, I really feel that it's very important for the CAC, particularly, to be invited to that hearing.
Yeah, there's some legal issues or barriers to that. We, as an ombudsman office, we are by law required to keep confidentiality with every interviews that we conduct with offenders. And we have to protect that confidentiality. And typically, when offenders talk to us, we ask them, if you want us to sort of raise this with the institution, where we'll have to talk to staff, so we get their consent for us to share some of the information with correctional officials. But in many ways, the CAC remains in that framework, remains a third party. So when we brief with the warden, we talk about individual cases, and we can't breach that confidentiality.
Okay. I realize, about the confidentiality, the privacy. I mean, I've been at this since 1996, and I've been through, many areas of it. But we're really not, like I speak for myself, I'm not interested in the individual. I'm interested in the circumstances that the reasoning, that the representative from your office is there. And we're trying to know in most cases where we can improve along with the information that we receive, between the warden and the representative from your office. So in other words, if I was to tell you, I go into each time we have a death within the institution, I go down and I watch, I look at that, location, and sometimes the results and the information that I receive are very beneficial. I'm not particularly interested in the inmate, his name. I probably know most of these people. I know they have kids. I know they have, loved ones at home and all that. But the most important thing is to know that these issues, when they're brought up, that we should be availing, ourselves to be able to check with them and definitely make the system run better.
Yeah, so, as I say, I think we are very open to, obviously, our investigators to get input and collaborate with CAC. But when it comes to the debrief, typically it's about individual cases that were that came to the attention of the investigator during their visit. It can be follow-up to issues around use of force or death in custody. Those are sort of the areas that we usually cover in those debriefs. Obviously, in my view, we have complementary mandate, and we have to respect each other's mandate, and we are big on our independence. But that doesn't mean that there can't be a sidebar meeting with a warden and our investigator on a issue that is, a systemic issue, for example, around food or inmate pay or grievances or things like that. I don't see that would be a problem to have our investigator chat with the warden and have CAC's presence around, a common common theme. So I think that's a fair, on your part, it's a fair assessment. So I'd
like to see that. I'd like to see that opened up more so. I really, after all these years, it's just the fact that I know this. Primarily, it's a very confidential area, but on the other hand, I think there's definitely something we should be looking at. I always speak with the OCI when they come in our group, we all function around that. But it was just an area that I thought I would cover, and if some of them are on the call today, I'll probably appreciate the fact that it's been brought up. But I know that was one thing in Ontario that I speak for all the CAC in Ontario, that I know that they felt that they should be included in that.
Excuse me, this is Howard from Edmonton Institution. This is huge on my radar as well, and I think what we're missing here is that we as the CAC are hands-on on the ground, and we can bring forward, maybe cut a little bit of the wheat from the chaff and separate things out, and maybe you will get more of a positive reaction from the wardens than just lip service. I hate to put it that strongly, but we are a little more apprised sometimes of the issues and the stalling of a lot of the issues and the lip service that is being given. And I think that we would be definitely an asset to sit down at that briefing. Over the years, and I've been involved for well over 10 years as well, we have been invited by many a warden, I've gone through 9 wardens, to sit in, and other wardens just draw the line in the sand and say no way. Now that we've got kind of a definite ruling on this, I think we should revisit this. There is a real asset for being there.
Yeah, so
thank you.
For the formal briefing, I'll be firm. I mean, we've also been solicited by the union, said that they would like to be at the table, and we said no. But that doesn't exclude, and this is maybe where there's a middle ground. If a CAC member comes to our investigator and say, I'd like to have a meeting with you and the warden to discuss a specific issue that is a concern, a well-known concern in the institution, I don't see a problem for our investigators to be part of a meeting like that, where, for example, you may pick a theme that is problematic in terms of conditions of confinement or treatment or anything, and have a meeting. But the debrief is something quite different for us. It's an accountability measure in terms of how we plan our investigation. We discuss it prior to the visit in terms of what's going to be raised. Then we report back to the warden, and then we write a letter back to the warden with those which follow up. But a side meeting, as I say, I would not have any concerns about that, and maybe that's where the middle ground is.
Okay.
Well, thanks everybody. I know
Howard, thank you very much for mentioning that. I appreciate that.
Thank you, everybody. I'm aware we've gone a little bit over time, but thank you all very much for participating. Special thanks to our special guest. This is a first for us, and I think it's highly progressive. We certainly see a lot of areas of synergy in terms of CAC's awareness about the grievance process. We've raised a few concerns of our own on that one. We're very interested to hear about the follow-up of the women in the secure units, of course. And now that one of our priorities was aging offenders, and now we learn we have to go through aging offenders throughout the lifespan. So our work never ends, but we will look forward to that report as well about some of the unique considerations for our younger clientele. So with that, everybody, thanks again very much. Take care. There's lots to discuss back at your local sites, of course, from this, and we look forward to the upcoming reports from your office as well, Dr. Zinger.
Thank you.
Laurie, short question from Charlie Burbank in Ontario. Joyceville, can you take it?
Hi, Charlie. Yeah, it's Grant here. I think they left.
Hello.
Yeah, it's Grant here, Charlie.
Still on the line?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, I'm still there. It's Howard from Prairie.
Oh, yeah, Howard, yeah. Yeah, that was a good thing you brought up.
I understand that the OCI wants to meet with the CACs when they visit the institution. Now, I saw that written down.
Yes, so they do, every time.
My question is, who informs us? Is it up to the institution to inform us, or is the OCI going to inform?
Now, let's put it this way. You have the right to make a phone call directly to the OCI office in Ottawa and find that out. They will get back to you. Secondary to that.
The problem is, they were in Joyceville last week and nobody told me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's up to Donna Millette.
Yeah. Well, nobody informed me whatsoever, and
that's bad.
I was a little disappointed because I would have made it get up there and talk to them.
We usually get notification a good 3 weeks prior to the visit.
That's normal.
And then we arrange a time that we will go in and meet. Usually, I like them to get 2/3 of their way through their visits before I meet with them. It used to be that we could go into the debriefing and observe. That's our role, to observe. We don't have to have input, but we can observe. However, that's been written in stone now that we can't.
Yeah, but if you don't know they're going to be there, it's pretty hard to arrange a meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. But our administration keeps us fully apprised of when they're coming.
Well, ours does not. Okay, thanks a lot.
Let's keep our foot in on some of these major issues that he's talking about, and that's administrative seg. With my prior warden, prior to September, he took our segregation numbers from over 30 to down to less than 6 by making them manage them on the unit where they have to go back to anyways.
Yeah.
Now we're up over 30 to 35 in seg again with the new warden.
Yeah.
Okay.
Administrative cut the numbers down, but they fluctuate a lot. They're better than they were, but they're still up there. seg review today, and there's some people in there 30 and 60 days that probably shouldn't be there. So,
well, sometimes they're just hiding out from issues that they're going to have to face whenever they go back to the unit anyways.
Yeah.
True. One thing I'd like to throw out for consideration is our previous warden had instituted an intake unit. So anybody coming into the maximum security spent a couple of weeks in an intake unit so that everybody had a chance to interview them and make sure that we're being placed in the right population of the institution. This one's gone by the wayside, but I think that's a very valuable tool. Garland wouldn't have got beat up if he'd been sitting in an intake unit over the weekend trying to figure out where to place him properly.
Yeah.
And it's huge.
So what you're saying is you would take the inmate when he first came to EI, and he would be you'd be available to talk with him, say, in the first month?
Probably within 3 weeks they should be put into
3 weeks, that'd be good.
Intake unit. So as that parole officer, chaplaincy, absolutely everybody has a chance to get to know him other than just do a paper review and bing.
I think that's a great idea.
It was a valuable tool. However, the union partners felt that it was an extension of segregation, and they didn't like making the extra moves to gym because these guys got full privileges. They weren't in segregation; they had full gym privileges, you know. And that's why it went away. But what a wonderful tool that we're missing. So I'll have Gord bring that up at next.
Yeah, good idea. Joyce was a little different because we're an assessment unit. It's very transient there anyway. But we had huge problems with double bunking and whatnot. So. Anyway.
Good.
Well, that's good. Well, nice talking with all you guys.
Yeah, you bet. Okay. Bye-bye.
Take care. We'll talk to you later. Okay, Charlie, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, when are you coming back to Ontario?
I'm back on the 7th.
Okay.
On the 8th. I leave here Friday the 7th, and I'm back, in Canada, at home, sleeping there on the 8th, which is Sunday. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well,
so if you want to schedule a meeting, type of thing, let me know, and I'll make myself available.
Yeah, I don't have my schedule for next month yet, strangely enough.
No, that's okay.
We'll figure something out. Okay.
Okay, good.
Have a safe trip back. Say hello to Sharon.
Yeah, I will do. Thank you, Harry and Charlie. Bye.